and they hold a 13-11 overall series edge. But this year, Cleveland 2-3, and the defending AFC champion Bengals 4 up and 1 down. Hello again, everybody. Bob Costas along with Bob Trumpy. This is more than just an intrastate rivalry. There's some legitimate emotion on the line every time these two teams get together.
Especially from the front office. That's a story that's much told. But I'll tell you what, I think the Cincinnati Bengals have the Cleveland Browns to thank for something, and that's the turnaround in this franchise. Back in 1980, last football game of the season, Cleveland came into town, and in the first half, this play occurred. Jack Thompson at quarterback, pass to Pat McInally, Tom Darden with a vicious hit on the chin. McInally was taken off in the first half on a stretcher as you watch it again in slow motion. He did recover, though, and in the second half came back on the field and miraculously was able to perform, and not only performed very well. This touchdown pass is evidence. Now, after the football game, Pat McInally said, "I love Forrest Craig. I'll do anything for him." That seems to permeate through the entire football team, and from that point, the Bengals have been 16-6 in the next 2 seasons. It turned them into a championship football team.
Now, in the 2 games between these clubs last year, one was a Cincinnati rout at Cleveland, but the game which the Browns won here featured a strong rushing game and ball control. They held the ball for more than 40 minutes of that game.
And primarily, it's Mike Pruitt. He is a dynamite running back, and I have the opinion that if Mike Pruitt can't carry the ball 20 or 25 times a ball game, then the Cleveland Browns are missing a big offensive weapon. Last week, Brian Sipe, as you look at his stats, 14 straight completions, had to throw the ball 48 times against San Diego. And when Cleveland throws it 48 times in any football game, they're going to lose. They must rely on a big offensive threat in Mike Pruitt.
The Bengals have won the toss. Steve Cox will kick it off for the Browns. David Verser and Rodney Tate are the deep men for Cincinnati. A little shift on the kick alignment. In the direction of Verser, and it skips through his legs. This is a live ball. Out of the end zone for an apparent touchback or safety?
That is a touchback. But the interesting thing, Rodney Tate there didn't realize that it was a free kick. And the ball could have been recovered in the end zone. He kind of let it bounce in there, and that is a free kick. If Cleveland had recovered it, it would have been for 6 points.
Alexander and Johnson joining Anderson in the backfield. Alexander had his bell rung a week ago against the Colts and missed most of the game with Archie Griffin replacing him. Isaac Curtis with a great history against the Browns. Ross and Collinsworth, the other targets. And the offensive line, which has allowed Anderson to be sacked more frequently this year than in the past couple of seasons. To the air on first down. Lots of time. Diving catch by Collinsworth, but only for a gain of about 4. Hanford Dixon was there on the coverage.
Now watch closely this play. That's David Verser, who let the ball get through him, and then Rodney Tate, number 23, you see, makes no attempt to get the football. That ball is a free ball, and I think Rodney Tate, the rookie out of Texas, didn't realize that. If recovered by Cleveland, 6 points.
Second down 6 with Curtis wide to the right and Collinsworth to the left. Pete Johnson, the lone setback, takes the swing pass, and he's bounced out of bounds before he could get going, and not too many people handle him in that fashion one-on-one.
Excellent tackle by Curtis Weathers, who is playing with a bad knee, missed last week's game, and only plays at 220 pounds as you look at that very, very inexperienced Cleveland Browns defense.
Harris, Bradley, and Robinson across the front on the 3-4. The linebacking core without the injured Clay Matthews, who might be back by playoff time if the Browns can make it to the playoffs. Cousineau, of course, the man who is the most watched, the $500,000 contract. And there is the secondary for the Browns. Third down 3 from the 27. Steve Kreider is in as the third wide receiver in this set for the Bengals. Got the first down. Collinsworth to the 38-yard line.
Bob, an initial comment, the Cincinnati Bengals throughout this season have been absolutely astounding in third down conversions. Short motion by Kreider. Kenny Anderson just waits for Collinsworth to get open. There's an awful big cushion there by the cornerback of the Cleveland Browns. That's entirely too much room to give Chris Collinsworth by Lawrence Johnson.
Wes Chandler, what a day he had yesterday in that remarkable game between the Chargers and 49ers, which you saw on NBC.
96 passes thrown, and I don't believe there was a sack by either team, Bob.
And they set an all-time NFL record for most passes completed by two teams in a game. Pete Johnson's first carry.
Bob, I believe there was Charles Alexander up through the middle. Here's Anthony Munoz, number 78. Blocking on 92, Mike Robinson. Good pile driving effort in there. Ambrose is in there to make the stop. There's 50 Cousineau cleaning up along with Curtis Weather.
You're right, it was Alexander on the carry for a gain of 3. Second down and 7.
Pete will consider that the ultimate compliment, that he was mistaken for 220-pound Charles Alexander.
Alexander now splits out wide to the left. Johnson takes the swing pass again, has some room. He's into Browns territory. 34-yard line of Cleveland. A gain of 24 on the play.
We've got a Cleveland player down on the field, but we'll watch this. A quick screen. You can see that there's some confusion out there. Curtis Weathers is there to be blocked by the offensive line, Dave Lapham, and he shouldn't be. Cousineau misses the tackle. And then I think 49, I believe, is the injured player on the field.
Clinton Burrell.
Clinton Burrell with the shoulder problem.
As they tend to Burrell, there's a timeout. 12 minutes and 22 seconds to play. First quarter, Bengals on the move with the game's first possession.
To happen against the Cincinnati Bengals with such a good offensive threat to throw the ball, you want your experienced defensive backs in here. 2 tight ends now for the Bengals.
M.L. Harris joining Dan Ross on first down from the Cleveland 34. M.L. Harris taking it on this maneuver around the right side, and he's cut down for a loss.
Chip Banks on the tackle. Excellent play.
Today's game is brought to you by Mazda Cars and Trucks. The more you look, the more you like their outstanding value. By Budweiser, for all you do, this Bud's for you. And by ColecoVision, the arcade-quality home video game system.
Now, I wonder about the choice of that play. Seems like a very odd time to get tricky. Wouldn't you agree with a reverse?
And they've been moving the ball well with the short passing game.
Okay, 4-man front now by the Cleveland Browns. This is their blitz position.
Flag down.
Time.
It's going to set them back to 2nd and 24 now.
Watch closely this Brown set and long yardage situation. They kind of offset the 2 defensive tackles in, and they run a lot of games from that formation.
Delay of game, 14 offense, second down.
We'll see if it happens again. That's Forrest Gregg. Generally, the Browns use 4 defensive backs, 1 linebacker, 51, who is 210 pounds, and almost like a safety, Eddie Johnson, and 6 defensive backs.
Flag should fly here, and they won't even complete the play. Let's see what Tom Dooley's crew has in mind. Remember the game we did last year in Cleveland when Forrest Gregg and the Bengals won easily 41-21, and the emotion that the normally stoic Gregg showed coming off the field. There's Dooley's crew. There's no question. And a lot of the emotion may, as you say, Trump, have come from the front offices themselves.
Encroachment, 79 defense, second down.
No question that this is an emotion-packed ball game.
Has been for years. But Forrest Gregg really doesn't address himself to it. He said that's good for the media and the press, but we still got to beat Cleveland.
They exchange 5-yard penalties. Back to 2nd and long for Anderson, who's sacked. Bob Golick got in, number 79.
Interesting man. Golick came out of college Notre Dame as a linebacker, played with New England, and just wasn't quick enough. Cleveland Browns put him in at noseman, and last year was the first, or I should say last week was the first time he started at noseman and did an exceptional job. This is a game. Golick comes from the outside, still got good speed for a defensive lineman there to make the sack, and that's going to make it 3rd and a million.
Is there something you can pinpoint about why Anderson has been so frequently sacked this year?
No, I really can't point my finger to it. They run short patterns, a lot of timing stuff. It's rather surprising.
a mile. Complete to Ross, but nowhere near what they need, and there's a flag on this play, too, as Ross is spun down at the 45 of Cleveland.
It is thrown generally in the area of an illegal chuck or offensive pass interference, one or the other. It appears it's going to be against the Cleveland Browns. Contact in the defensive backfield. Let's see. Illegal procedure against the defense? I don't know that I've ever seen that.
You're about to see it walked off by Tom Dooley. 10 minutes and 58 seconds to play first quarter.
I want to hear this call. Illegal procedure against the defense. 12 men on the field, possibly?
Now Dooley wants to check and make sure he's got the yardage straight before he paces it off.
That can be the only thing.
12 men on the field, defense, third down.
You got it, Trump.
Sam Rutigliano on the right, Forrest Gregg on the left. That's 2 of the 6 coaches that the Cleveland Browns have had in their history, and 2 more are here. Dick Modzelewski, 1 game in 1977, and of course Paul Brown for about 20 years in Cleveland.
Third down, 22 from the 46 of the Browns. Anderson in some trouble. Down in an act of self-preservation after a gain of 5, and they'll have to punt. And now comes an interesting situation because both kickers, the place kicker Breach and the punter McAnally for the Bengals, are playing banged up.
McAnally has a bad knee, but I want to make a comment about the Cleveland Browns defense there. Total zone. They rush 4 defensive linemen and good coverage by the defensive backs. McAnally has a bad knee, and when he makes proper contact with the football, it jars the knee joint to the point where he really can't get distance on it. We'll watch closely, see how he does.
It's a chronic thing. It's bothered him all season long. Good attempt to hit the coffin corner, but it goes in for the touchback.
He seems to be all right, too, not limping.
Cleveland will have their first possession when we come back with 10:08 to play first quarter. It's a first quarter jolt. They have fallen behind in the last 2 weeks. Dallas and San Diego quickly dug themselves a hole from which they couldn't possibly recover.
Good psychological lift for the Browns, too, stopping the Bengals on an initial possession by Cincinnati.
Ryan Sipe, who has heard the Bluebirds of late in Cleveland, hands to Charles White on first down, and the former Heisman winner gets only a couple. White and Pruitt in the backfield. Feature Logan and Ozzie Newsome, who had the biggest game of his career with 10 receptions for 140 yards and a touchdown a week ago in the San Diego loss. Now there's the offensive line. Cody Rison with 4 years experience. The other 4, more than 40 years in the league between them. Doug Deacon playing with a broken right hand, and we'll talk more about that and what it might lead to in just a moment. Sipe gets out of it, but can't stay out of it.
The Bengals rushed 7 guys. They had everybody at the line of scrimmage. Just 4 guys in coverage. Wilson Whitley, the nose man, jumps around Tom DeLeone. You can see the confusion there at the line of scrimmage. And Brian Sipe didn't even have a chance. He couldn't even get to the depth that he wanted to even set up, throw the football.
Wilson Whitley took the first shot, then Reggie Williams wrapped him up.
They have the appearance again of a total blitz here, the Bengals.
Third down, 17 out of the shotgun. Exactly 9 minutes to play. Inside handoff to Dino Hall. He bounces off tacklers, but comes up about 3 yards short of the first down.
Excellent play in that they set up in the shotgun, and it does appear that Brian Sipe is going to throw for the first down. Then hands in front, a little shovel pass in front to Dino Hall. Almost good enough for the first down. In fact, I got to tell you, with the Cleveland Browns presently being 2-3 and looking for some hook, some way to turn things around, if I were Sam Rutigliano, I'd look for Cox to run the ball, pass the ball, anything to try to turn my team around early in the football game.
But is this the point on the field where you want to try that kind of trickery?
No, not now, but throughout the game.
Good spiraling punt, fielded by Mike Fuller at the 30. And down at the 38 of Cincinnati, and Fuller moves ever closer to that all-time record for most punts returned.
Flag down on the field. 44 yards on the punt, 8 yards on the return, and an illegal man downfield. Now, generally, most coaches would like to have your opponent punt the ball again, because it's another 40-yard sprint that those members of the punt team have to do. Although the Bengal offense is now on the field, they may take the bird in the hand as opposed to the one in the bush.
Illegal man downfield on a punt. 59 to the kicking team. Penalty is declined. It's first down.
Kevin Turner, a linebacker. Now, I question that. A lot of people in Cleveland were wondering about the intensity of the Cleveland Browns. Kevin Turner with one thing to do, and that's special teams, left too early. Not good.
Bob Costas back along with Bob Trumpy. Exchange of punts. Each team's first possession. Cincinnati back in business at their 38.
Jitters whenever these two teams meet. There's always a great deal of emotion. I think both coaches, especially Forrest Gregg, always trying to beat the Cleveland Browns, puts a little more pressure on the players. It's not bad, but it'll take a couple of series for both teams to settle down to their normal flow of things.
Cincinnati got as far as the Cleveland 34 on their first possession, but then a combination of sacks and penalties pushed it back. Pete Johnson spinning across the 40-yard line and stopped by Marshall Harris, number 90. Jets playing well, coming in with a record of 4-1, jump out to a 14-0 lead. Freeman McNeil, a pair of touchdown runs. First for 4 yards, second for 5.
There's got to be a turnover there. There's only, less than a minute difference between the two scores. Tampa unable to hang on to the ball, apparently.
Second and 7 from the 41. And in Cleveland territory.
But very close to an interception. Excellent coverage by Hanford Dixon. Here's Tom Cousineau on the inside. Interesting that the 3 years he played in the CFL, where they throw the ball so much, normally in passing situations, Cousineau comes out. But he is an outstanding football player, a great tackler, leads the Browns in tackles, plays the offside, the pursuit inside linebacker, and the defense is designed to make sure he gets a lot of tackles. If he doesn't, he is not doing his job.
7:24 to go, scoreless so far, first quarter in Cincinnati. Collinsworth again. Not much, 3, maybe 4 yards.
Ball poorly thrown by Anderson. Made Collinsworth jump up in the air and destroyed the timing of the pass, but Cleveland had it well defensed.
Interesting that with Collinsworth and Curtis as his starting wide receivers, there you see McAnally, who's been bothered by the injured knee but got off a good punt last time. Anderson has thrown only 1 touchdown pass out of 7 this year to a wide receiver, and that was to a reserve wide receiver, Steve Kreider. The others have gone to his tight ends and to his backs.
That does not surprise me, and I'll tell you why in a minute.
Deep drop by Anderson. Pete Johnson can't hold it. All right, why doesn't it surprise you, Trump?
Well, one of the things that defenses can now use the sideline to stop the outside receivers. And with the hash marks in the middle of the field, you got a lot more room in the middle of the field to throw the ball. Watch Golick, 79, the nose man. Once again, the game to the outside. Got decent speed. Mike Wilson picks him up on the outside. Golick is a trier. He was a high school wrestler, and interesting that he and Tom Cousineau wrestled against each other when they were in high school. Impressive, huh, by the Bengals? Not bad either by the Cleveland defense.
Third and a long 4 for Anderson. Archie Griffin can't hold it. Made a diving attempt. Anderson had to scramble out of trouble. He led all NFL quarterbacks last year in rushing yardage.
1981 most valuable player in the National Football League, and of course Brian Sipe, the 1980 most valuable player in the National Football League. Bengals so far their running backs and short patterns are being well defense by the Cleveland Browns. Excellent job so far.
Dwight Walker is the deep man, number 42. McAnally's average of 45.4 a year ago led the NFL. This year, that knee difficulty has cut his average back a bit. Walker opts for the fair catch and takes it at the 13-yard line. We're down to 6 minutes and 59 seconds to play first quarter. Just a 28-yard punt, no return with the fair catch. We're coming right back. Back at Riverfront Stadium on a surprisingly warm day for this time of December. Temperatures in the mid-30s. Sun shining brightly. Minnesota 7-0 over Baltimore in the first. And Detroit on an Eddie Murray field goal of 27 yards, the early lead on Green Bay. The Pack comes in at 4-1 in that game. From the Browns' 13-yard line, Pruitt. 2, maybe 3. We'll be back with the Browns' second down play in just a moment. But first, an update from NFL 82 in New York.
Thank you, Bob Costas. This is Mike Adamley in New York. At the Metrodome in Minneapolis, the Vikings have gone on top of the Baltimore Colts 7-0. This 25-yard touchdown pass, Tommy Kramer to Sammy White, Kramer's 9th TD this season. Bob?
Thanks, Mike. Second down, and let's call it 7 upcoming.
By Louis Breeden on the play, and the Cleveland Browns are doing an interesting thing. They're trying to confuse the defense by switching their tight end from side to side. This is a little dump off to Charles White. It's set up as a screen. He does do a good job of getting up the field. Nice move there. And Jim LeClaire, Louis Breeden on the tackle. It'll be third down and about 4 yards.
St. Clair in as a fourth down lineman in this situation. High snap off the shotgun. Again, the inside handoff to Dino Hall. And this time the Bengals not fooled. Browns will have to punt.
We talked about at the outset of the game, Bobby Kemp and Brian Hicks on the tackle, that the Browns had to throw the football. The Browns had to run the football. So far, they have not thrown a pass to my knowledge. There's Doug Deacon, 63 on outside linebacker Reggie Williams. And it's the right hand that Deacon has broken. You see that he can't use his fingers, and that's a lack of leverage there. And it might have an effect on how Deacon performs. He is one of the best offensive linemen there is in the NFL.
Fuller deep, awaiting the kick from Cox.
He's got room.
40, about the 43-yard line.
No flags.
Fuller is within 10 now of Emlyn Tennell's all-time record of 258 punts returned. 7-yard run back that time on a 44-yard kick. They are the AFC elite in this strange season. Cleveland has to face Pittsburgh 2 of the next 3 weeks. Cincinnati next week, a Monday night encounter with San Diego.
Which ought to be interesting out there in San Diego. Of course, the Bengals beat the Chargers twice last year in the regular season, then the AFC Championship game right here. And the also-rans too. Cleveland at 2-3.
2-3, however, doesn't leave you out of it. The Browns have a tough schedule, and they haven't played very well of late. Pete Johnson for short yardage on first down. What, in your opinion, has happened to this Browns team between 1980, when they came awfully close to a trip to the Super Bowl, and then 81, 5-11, this year 2-3?
A lot of people talk about a lot of factors in Cleveland about the Browns, but I think it's one simple thing, a lack of defense. I was just doing some research on the Cleveland Browns last night, and I was astounded to learn that the last time the Cleveland Browns shut out an opponent was 1974 against the San Francisco 49ers. They have had a lack of defense for a number of years, and they've always suffered because of it.
2nd and 9 from the Bengal 43, and this bullet is complete to Isaac Curtis.
Yards on the catch by Isaac Curtis, who over his career has made a living. That's now his 68th reception for 1,288 yards, 19-yard average, and 12 of the 68 pass receptions have gone for touchdowns over his career.
Against the Cleveland Browns.
Against the Cleveland Browns.
First and 10 from the Brown 45. The pitch back to Pete Johnson. Johnson for perhaps 4 on first down.
We'll watch Dick Ambrose, who basically is the only linebacker in the game for the Cleveland Browns with some experience. He plays the strong side inside linebacker. He's the guy who's got to take on the guards. You see both those guys slide along the line of scrimmage. He is a tough cookie. Really an excellent player. Good tackle.
You mentioned Curtis's record of success against the Browns. Anderson also enjoys playing against Cleveland. He's completed 62% of his passes for 26 touchdowns in 20 games previously against the Browns. Dan Ross is tight end, very close to the first down. It's at the 35, and as they line it up, we'll go to New York for an update. NFL 82. Take it, guys.
This is Mike Adderley at our NFL 82 studios in New York. In the snow of Buffalo, the Bills are driving here. Joe Ferguson hits the club's #1 draft choice. Harry Tuttle for 27 yards. Down to the 5, the Bills are driving, but it's still 0-0 in the first.
Well, we saw Buffalo a week ago, Trump. They had an awful time at Milwaukee against the Packers, looking to regroup against Pittsburgh today.
Maybe they play better at home than on all the mud in Milwaukee.
They're just shy of the first down, but now they've got it on the vault by Charles Alexander. It was third and a short one, and Alexander gets them the first.
I believe the Bengals are now 2 of 3 in converting third downs into first downs. 2 of 4.
Alexander took a shot on the head early in the game at Baltimore a week ago and left in favor of Archie Griffin, who played most of the game. Bengals got a lot more than they might have bargained for from the Colts. Coming up later, as the second part of our doubleheader, you'll see either the Raiders and the Chiefs or the Broncos and the Rams.
Bob, look at the cushion that the defensive backs for Cleveland are giving the receivers, almost 11 yards. My estimation, entirely too much. Whoa!
Collinsworth, flag. He might have been held up, and it could be pass interference against the Browns, and it is.
Yes, sir. What they're doing is they're playing their cornerbacks about 11 yards deep, trying to catch the receivers at the point where they generally make the break. Collinsworth went up, faked the out move, and then went by number 29 Hanford Dixon, and Dixon had no choice but to grab him as he went by. That's an awful big cushion to give receivers. 11 yards is probably the maximum you can give them, and it's not enough if you don't get good pressure from the up front 4.
Illegal contact, 29 defense, first down.
That was like, really in basketball, a good foul to take. He didn't have any choice. If he didn't hold him up, it was 6 points. At least you make him work for it.
First down from the 29-yard line. Curtis comes in motion. Into all kinds of traffic, and incomplete, intended for Ross. What a dangerous pass to throw.
There seemed to be some confusion there. There were 2 receivers in the same general area, Dan Ross and Archie Griffin. Mara Scott on the coverage. You see the blitz by Chip Banks, but Ross off the line of scrimmage. Just a short pattern. Scott standing back there just as kind of the free safety. This is his first year at a free safety. He went from corner to strong safety to free safety. Has always been a great defensive back for the Cleveland Browns.
Well, if you're in the league for 12 years, as he has been, you get to play almost every position eventually.
Not if you're Ken Riley.
That's true. At that right corner, it seems like forever for Cincinnati. On target to Ross. He's right about at the 20-yard line, which will leave them with third down and perhaps a yard.
This is from behind the offensive set now. It looked like it was man-to-man coverage. Ross on Judson Flint, number 20. And it's difficult to cover Dan Ross one-on-one. simply because he doesn't try to beat you deep. He's just a quick receiver. You see the bump off 20 Judson Flynn, and if the receiver can control that bump, be in control out of it, he's going to win. Third down now and about 2.
Flynn is in the game in place of Clinton Barella, who was shaken up early and hasn't come back. They'll throw for it. Curtis, first down.
People nowadays in the NFL, when they look at offenses, they look at the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Bengals use screens very well. This is simply a screen. Try to keep the defensive back off the receiver's back, and you see there's just a slight bit of area between the cornerback, Hanford Dixon and Curtis, just enough for Anderson to make the completion.
We reached the end of a scoreless first quarter, but a first quarter played primarily in Cleveland territory. And when we come back, the Bengals will have it 1st and 10 at the Browns 16.
Once again, from behind the offense, Isaac Curtis just went in motion, and I talked to you about a screen. I've got a little graphic up here to try to show it to you. Let's make this Isaac Curtis right here. He has coverage with this man right here. The manner in which that play is run is that this guy comes off the line of scrimmage and tries to get in his way. He doesn't necessarily make contact, but he wants that defensive man to either go around him or underneath him. Curtis's pattern is simply this. This guy will go with this guy in coverage, giving him the cushion. And Curtis is out here in the flat to make the reception. That's a screen or a pick in the NFL, very commonly used nowadays for offense.
Thank you, Professor Trumpy. First play of the second quarter from the 16-yard line of the Browns. Pete Johnson carries. A flag is down. There was some motion along the line of scrimmage. We're coming back to Cincinnati in just a moment.
This is Mike Adamle in New York, and Bob, see how the professor likes this play. Joe Ferguson has the Bills driving, but it's intercepted by Dwayne Woodruff of the Steelers, and the threat has ended. It is still 0-0 in the first quarter. Bob?
All right, thanks, Mike Adamle. Go ahead, Trump.
Yeah, I think we've got Anthony Munoz down on the field. I can't really pick up the number yet, but he's the only offensive lineman not standing. He is the consensus All-Pro left tackle of the Cincinnati Bengals. And you can...
Offside, 79 defense, first down.
Bob Golick offsides.
And it appears that he was lined up offsides. You can see the concern on Ken Anderson's face. He protects the backside of Ken Anderson and protects it very well. Without Munoz, this is about half the offense that it generally is.
We'll be back with a report on Anthony Munoz in a moment.
It's not just a race. It's a game. If they think I'm tired, maybe they'll make their move.
Bring out your best.
Then I'll make mine.
Bring out your best. Budweiser Light. Bring out your best. Budweiser Light.
The best never comes easy. That's why there's nothing else like it.
Budweiser Light.
Only from Atari. Made especially for systems from Atari. The video game that lets you help E.T. get home. Just in time for Christmas. Happy holidays.
Still in the first minute of the second quarter and on the Johnson touchdown run. The Bengals have a 7-0 lead. With a groin injury sustained in practice, and if he had been unable to go, they would have had to use the rookie tight end Rodney Holman from Tulane. Low kick coming up the field. It is Dino Hall, and out across the 25-yard line for Cleveland.
I tend to think that was by design, squibbing the ball along the AstroTurf. There's Sam Rutigliano. 13 yards on the return by Dino Hall. Cleveland Browns have had one pass completion, and that was a screen to Charles White, and very little offense to this point. Biggest play was the shovel pass to Dino Hall, gain of 13 yards, and that's basically been it.
Like Anderson against the Browns, Sipe has had good success for Cleveland against Cincinnati. A week ago, 33 of 48, including 14 in a row and 19 out of 20 in one stretch against the Chargers. to the sideline for Ozzie Newsome's first reception with Bobby Kemp on the coverage. To take nothing away from Sipe, it's a little bit misleading when you quote those statistics because much of it came in the second half when the Chargers had a big lead and were playing soft and giving him a lot of stuff underneath.
True, and 10 of them last week went to Ozzie Newsome. You can see here single coverage, a big cushion by Bobby Kemp on Ozzie Newsome, who, even though he is a tight end, plays like a wide receiver. Excellent speed out of Alabama.
They get 7, leaving them 2nd and 3. Pruitt bounces off and lunges close to a first down, but shy of it by about a yard.
Now, even though Mike Pruitt has only carried the ball, I think, twice, and for very little gain, he is the type of running back that you have to continue to give him the football, because he will eventually, through sheer determination and leg strength, break a couple of tackles and all of a sudden have the long run. I noticed that the Cleveland Browns, their longest run from scrimmage this year is 18 yards, which is very, very unusual for the Cleveland Browns.
3rd and 1. They ask Pruitt to get it, and he does. Last year, in the Cleveland victory here, Pruitt did not start the game. He was hurt. Cleo Miller did a wonderful job in his stead. And then after Miller was hurt, Pruitt came in and carried the load in a long, time-consuming drive in the 4th quarter. And between the two of them, Pruitt and Miller, they wound up with better than 150 yards combined.
And the Cleveland offense has a reason to be encouraged. Last week, the Baltimore offense gained 210 yards rushing against this before then vaunted defense of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Pruitt had 9 pass receptions last week against the Chargers. Sipe under some pressure and nearly intercepted. Jim LeClaire had a hand on it.
Dave Logan, the intended receiver, and he was the secondary receiver. Sipe was pressured once again to the outside by Eddie Edwards. You'll see Jim LeClaire come out here. There's Logan just kind of waltzing around there. He's not the primary receiver. The ball thrown behind him and almost an interception by Jim LeClaire. Thing that amazes me. That's I can't tell who that is. Dave Logan.
Guess that takes care of that.
So far, Dave Logan has just 10 receptions in this season.
5 of them last week against San Diego. On the 2nd down play, Dwight Walker. No, make it Pruitt. My mistake. Pruitt on the reception, and Bo Harris, number 53, on the tackle.
What was wrong with that Cleveland Brown on the sideline? Oh, that might have been Doug Deacon, because Matt Miller is now in the ball game at left tackle. Very important man, if that in fact is who was underneath that cape. He has the broken hand.
Baltimore comes back with a Mike Wood field goal of 39 yards to make it 7-3. And look at Detroit. Wow. A team which had looked terrible against the Packers, which is a team that has been performing very well. 17-0, the Lions over the Packers. And that's at Green Bay. Sipe firing long.
Ricky Beecher, the intended receiver, he's another guy who has made a living almost against the Cincinnati Bengals. Single coverage blitz by the Bengals, slightly overthrown by Brian Sipe.
And Cox will have to punt again.
Now I'd look for something funny.
As in amusing or tricky?
No. I mean, as in tricky. I don't know if Sam Martigliano is apt to do something like that. That's in his thinking, but he's got to get his offense on track here. So far, they've had problems.
Fuller at the 15, awaiting the kick, which is wobbly and short.
Bad kick.
Takes a halfway decent Cleveland bounce and is down at the 25-yard line.
Wow, 22 yards on the kick. Not enough.
11 minutes and 27 seconds to play. 2nd quarter at Riverfront. Bengals with the ball and the lead.
It was 32 yards, not 22 yards, but still not acceptable. There was no reason for a 32-yard punt. Needed a lot better. Look at the field position at the 25 now for the Bengals.
Here's the information on the series between the clubs, which we noted at the beginning of the game. Off the play fake, Anderson zips one intended for Collinsworth, and then nearly intercepted by Clarence Scott.
I notice now Anthony Munoz comes back in the ballgame now, replacing Michael Bravik. What's number 56 here? Chip Banks. You see his hands up? along with Dick Ambrose. Close. That kid can play. He is an outstanding linebacker. He's now playing in his 6th game in the NFL. And in the next few years, the Browns have got a great linebacking core.
Clay Matthews will be back. Cousineau, Banks. 2nd and 10 from the 25. Johnson on that little swing maneuver.
I don't know if people understand how difficult it is to make that kind of tackle out in the flat. The tackle was made by Chip Banks, the gentleman we were just speaking out of USC. Here you'll see him. Dan Ross tries to make a little contact. Watch this tackle. Drives right through Pete Johnson's legs. Excellent tackle by Chip Banks. 3rd down, a long 6.
Jack Lambert of the Steelers says that Pete Johnson is the most difficult man in the NFL to tackle one-on-one. Do you agree?
Having never tackled him and looking at him from the vantage point we just had there, yes.
They need 6 on 3rd down. They've got it. Here's Ross into Browns territory and down to the 43-yard line.
On the catch and run by Dan Ross, and it appears to me that the Cleveland Browns persist in Judson Flint single coverage on Dan Ross, and that's not working. I don't know what the alternative is. It looked like a 2-deep zone on top and man-to-man coverage underneath, and turning Dan Ross loose on Judson Flint one-on-one is a real mismatch.
Ross, who caught 71 last year, sets them up at the 43-yard line, 1st down. Anderson with lots of time and with a man open, but he can't make the connection with Collinsworth. And Collinsworth had made the move inside the defender and was home free if Anderson's pass had been on target.
Once again, single coverage. Hanford Dixon, number 1 draft choice. We'll watch Collinsworth here, number 80. Good outside move, and then it turns into a foot race. Ball just slightly overthrown.
Now on 2nd and 10, Pete Johnson checks out and Archie Griffin has come in.
Look for a screen pass. I think that play to Collinsworth, 1, trying for the touchdown, but 2, to kind of loosen up the coverage a little bit. Browns were getting right up there on the line of scrimmage.
Alexander out of the backfield and split wide to the right. Down goes Anderson.
Total blitz. Ambrose, you see 52, Ambrose. Golick on the other side of the center. Certainly the right time to send a blitz up through the middle. You see those guys going on either side of the center. Ambrose, almost held by Max Montoya, number 65. Golick, Ambrose. I think that's Golick's 2nd sack of the day, isn't it?
It is.
Not bad for a guy who is playing in his 2nd game at nose tackle.
In place of the injured Henry Bradley.
And we were led to believe that Henry Bradley would start and play, and I don't believe we've seen him today.
No, we haven't. 3rd down, 18, pushed back now to the Bengal 48. Collinsworth. 1st down.
You mentioned 3rd down and 18. This is good for 22 yards and a 1st down, and this is absolutely inexcusable by any defense. You see the cornerback slip, but still, 3rd down and 18. It's Larry Brazil on the coverage. 3rd down and 18. Offenses should not convert that to a 1st down. There's no way. It should not happen.
8:35 remains in the 1st half. The Bengals lead at 7-0. Johnson. 7, maybe 8 on the 1st down carry. Dick Ambrose eventually brought him down.
And I'll tell you what, I noticed Tom Cousineau got pushed all over the field that time by Max Montoya. Let's watch number 50. To the right of your screen, Montoya takes a shot at the nose man, and then you see 65 on 50. It appears that Cousineau should be a little lower in taking on that block. A little more squared up in the line of scrimmage. He's strong enough, as you watch Jim Breach warm up. Cousineau is strong enough to take on any offensive lineman, shoulder to shoulder.
2nd and 2. Johnson gets the 2. And maybe be a bit more. First down again for Cincinnati.
6 of 8 now, third downs converted to a first down, and without that 22-yard reception, that 3rd and 18, Cleveland has the ball. You can't let that happen. That'll unemploy some defensive coaches or some players.
7:18 and ticking in the second quarter. First and 10 from the 16-yard line. Curtis in motion. Johnson the carry. Maybe a yard.
92, Mike Robinson on the tackle, came behind the block. Was able to get to Pete Johnson. Quite a disparity, wouldn't you agree there, Bob?
And reflected in the records as well. The Bengals at 4-1, the Browns at 2-3.
You win in the NFL unless you're San Diego playing San Francisco with defense.
Second down 9. Johnson again on the draw. Cleveland closed that hole pretty quickly, and he gets perhaps 3 yards.
Banks, Cousineau on the tackle. In first down situations, the Bengals generally have done such a good job that the defense is out there wondering what's coming next.
Cousineau is listed technically as a rookie, but of course he has the Canadian experience. You spend a couple of years in Canada. What does that translate to in terms of pro experience when you come to the NFL?
I think you still should consider the young man a rookie. This is entirely different. That's the B team down up there. This is the A team down here.
Griffin, the lone setback on 3rd and 5 from the 11. Little alley-oop. Kreider can't hold it, but pass interference.
Coverage.
Steve Kreider was holding that thumb in against his chest on a touchdown reception a week ago against Baltimore. Here's Tom Dooley indicating the penalty against the Browns, which will make it 1st and goal for the Bengals. He jammed that thumb, Kreider did, last week on a catch and run for a touchdown.
We'll see it right at us. Good little juke inside. Now the advantage to the receiver, and the officials are always going to call pass interference in that situation, Bob, simply because the defensive man, has no sight of the football. And generally, that's when the call is going to go against him. There was contact.
Alexander lost the football.
Anderson, touchdown.
Did he ever have the football?
No.
I'd say that was a heck of a fake.
Good thing you're not the middle linebacker of the Cleveland Browns. Watch this.
Didn't make any difference. He didn't stop it either, did he?
You're right. But it's designed as a rollout, a pass run option. Anderson legs it in.
I took a look at Alexander. I said, wait a minute, there's no football.
You were right in that aspect.
For Anderson, his 3rd touchdown this season.
I think all 3 of them came on plays exactly like that, too. Pass run options.
As we mentioned earlier, Kreider's injured thumb has not prevented him from playing as an extra wide receiver, but is preventing him from holding on the placements by Breach. So it's Fuller. Good snap, good kick.
Well, now it's back for Cleveland to throw the ball 48 or 49 times in 3 quarters. Now they take Mike Pruitt out of their offense.
For the 3rd consecutive week against good competition. First Dallas, then San Diego. Now the Bengals. The Browns are in a hole. It's a time. And with a completion.
Ozzie Newsome once again. And Doug Deacon is back in the offensive lineup for the Cleveland Browns. He's with that bad hand.
3rd down and 2 now upcoming for the Browns. Watch it again.
Looked like total zone 3-man rush by the Bengals, just sitting between the 2 linebackers. Obviously, the Bengals are willing to give up 8 or 9 yards per pass reception.
Logan to the right, Feature to the left. Who's the guilty party here, Trump?
I have a feeling legal procedure, it appeared that one of the guards also moved, but the 30-second clock had expired also, Bob. Browns are now 1 of 4 in third down conversions. Face their 6th attempt. Coming up here, it's going to be third down now, and
False start, offense, 64, third down.
Joe D. Watch it ever so closely. On the right side, Joe D. Looks like it's going to be a trap play. Up through the middle, not a pass.
Joe DeLamador. Third down, 7. Ball pushed back to the 36.
Looks like, Bob, excuse me, looks like blitz. They got 9 guys up on the line of scrimmage, trying to create some confusion. No blitz.
Sipe with time from the shotgun. There's a first down on a nice little lunging move after the catch by Mike Pruitt.
Excellent play. Minor point, but the Cleveland Browns did a good job there in not panicking. Brian Sipe obviously had the count on something other than the first sound, so all the moving around by the Bengals defense really didn't affect the offense at all.
Browns passing to their backs a lot this year. Charles White came into the game tied with Ozzie Newsome for the reception lead on the team. Each had 23. Pruitt caught that one for a first down. He caught 9 last week in the San Diego loss. We've reached the 2-minute warning. The Browns also have 3 timeouts remaining, and we'll be right back. Again, this time from 30, it's 6-0 Washington in the second quarter at St. Louis over the Cardinals.
How are the Cardinals going to get Stump Mitchell and O.J. Anderson into the same backfield at the same time, I wonder?
After last week's performance, I think Jim Hannafin will find a way. Last 2 minutes of the first half. Browns with a chance to move to within 14-7 if they can keep this alive. This is becoming a regular routine here.
Lack of concentration on the defense's part. Noseman Wilson Whitley standing there looking right at the football. Brian Sipe obviously breaking up the cadence a little bit, trying to draw him off sides, and it works. Defensive coaches will be all over Whitley for that.
Encroachment, 75 defense, first down.
That's the second one of those in this drive alone on Wilson Whitley.
At Buffalo, Efren Herrera has hit from 34 yards out for the Bills, who lengthened their lead to 10-0 over the Steelers. Buffalo coming in 3-2. The Steelers at 4-1. Highlights and all the scores. Mike Adamle, Len Berman and company. NFL 82 at halftime. First and 5 from the 21.
You got Beecher and Logan on the top side of the screen there.
Pruitt cut down. A loss of 1 on the play.
My goodness.
Jim LeClaire shot through there like a lightning bolt, and the 11-year veteran out of North Dakota makes the big play.
Interesting choice of plays.
Sometimes statistics are illuminating, sometimes misleading. You play a 3-4 defense, a guy like LeClaire and a guy like Cousineau for the Browns is supposed to lead you in tackles.
And in both cases, each player does.
Second and 5 from the 21. Sipe picks up some yardage and just as importantly gets out of bounds.
Close to the first down, too. Excellent job and rather unusual. Brian Sipe generally does not run the ball, would prefer to stand back there and find an open receiver.
He's got a first down, a minute 12 remaining, and all 3 timeouts left for the Browns.
If you were watching the clock up there in Cleveland, understand that until the officials motion to the official timekeeper to stop the clock runs. And the official timekeeper is on this side of the field, on the near side of the field.
And then he's ridden out of bounds by Rosano. 1:07 left.
Jim LeClaire must be hurt. Must have jammed his neck. He is out of the game. And Rick Rosano is in, and Brian Sipe is limping. Appeared he got hit right on the hip. Bobby Kemp, 26. Appeared a helmet right in the stomach at the belt line, and you can see where Newsome steps out of bounds right there. Second down now in about 6.
Sipe will stay in.
blitz, Bob. Here they come.
He gets rid of it. Incomplete. Intended for Charles White.
Well, now they're in trouble. It's going to be 3rd down and 6, and it cuts down your options a great deal.
In comes Ray Griffin now as the nickelback for the Bengals. Mike St. Clair and Glenn Collins also in as they prepare to mount the pass rush. Wilson Whitley comes out.
58 seconds left in the half, and a touchdown here would certainly help the Browns' attitude. If nothing else, timeout now by Cleveland.
And they still have 2 remaining. It'll be interesting to see if they don't get it on 3rd down, whether they elect to go for it on 4th. As Rutigliano and Sipe huddle, we'll take this break. The preceding announcement furnished as a public service by the National Football League. Let's pick up on the point we were making just before the commercial. You're down 14-0. If you don't get it here, I think you have to give serious consideration to going on 4th down instead of settling for 14-3.
Depends on what the 4th down yardage would be, but I want to bring up a point here. The Browns just got a grand total of 31 points in the first half of their games this year, just 14 in the second quarter. The coverage.
You're right.
Logan, the intended receiver. And there just wasn't that cushion for Brian Sipe to get in there. Logan, a big receiver at 6'5" and about 215 pounds, initiated the contact. And generally when the receiver is in control of that contact and can bounce off the defensive man, there is a good completion. Now
Barr is just 3 of 9 on field goal tries this year, but Mike Babb had trouble with his snaps, and now Tom DeLeon will be the center. McDonald holds, and Barr drills it through. From 29 yards out, Matt Barr makes it 14-3 with 47 seconds remaining.
Helps, but I'm sure that's not what the Browns wanted. To once again come away with no touchdown.
Don't forget, after this telecast is over, the second half of our NFL 82 doubleheader, either the Raiders and Chiefs or the Broncos and Rams coming up next on NBC.
Browns are 2 of 6 in 3rd down conversions now in the first half. That has really been a problem for them throughout the season too, converting just 37%. The Bengals had about 55.9.
There has not been a turnover in this first half. Last year, when the Bengals romped at Cleveland, turnovers and big plays were the key. That hasn't been the case here. It's simply been a controlled passing attack, the occasional running bursts of Pete Johnson. And except for that last drive where Cleveland held the ball for a while and wound up with 3 points, it's pretty much been 3 downs and punt for the Browns, and the Bengals have held the ball.
You're right. Time of possession is clearly in favor of the Bengals. We'll watch Cox now kick it to one side of the field or the other.
They're anticipating a short kick. So he responds by booting it long, and Verser takes it at the 3.
Tell you what, Bob, I'll make a comment. Letting that ball bounce in front of you as a receiver on the kickoff is poor judgment in my estimation. You don't know where that ball is going to bounce.
It could take a wild hop, and it's a free ball.
Absolutely. Best thing to do in all cases is, if you can comfortably, catch the ball in the air. Do not let it bounce. That's David Verser, first-round draft choice last year out of Kansas. And Collinsworth, the second-round draft choice, has certainly been the darling of this franchise. Verser relegated to returning kickoffs.
Collinsworth and Curtis both go out to the left. Bengals have all 3 timeouts left, but they're deep in their own territory, and they're playing it close to the vest with Pete Johnson.
That's a big vest. They'll just hand it to Pete Johnson, depending upon when they spot the ball.
Well, the former Willie James Hammock, now known as Pete Johnson, is listed at 249. Some had speculated that during the hiatus presented by the strike that he might have ballooned to as high as 280. He took exception to that assessment.
I'll tell you what, though, when the weather gets cold, Pete Johnson always seems to play very well. That's when he plays at best.
Football, basketball doubleheader next Saturday on NBC. The Jets at Miami in what shapes up as an important ball game. That gets it underway at 12 Eastern Time. and it's followed by college basketball from Pauley Pavilion at UCLA. The Iowa Hawkeyes will look awfully tough in the Big Ten this year. UCLA picked by some to go as far as the Final Four. They'll be playing host, and that begins at 3:30 Eastern Time after the football game.
I'll take UCLA. Kenny Fields, Stuart Gray, outstanding talent on Darren Day, outstanding talent on that basketball team.
But Lute Olson's got some horses at Iowa, too.
He also lost a big horse in Ronnie Lester.
That was a few years back, though.
A couple years, still great talent.
He's got Greg Stokes, Michael Payne, Steve Carfino running the show from the backcourt, Pete Johnson carrying. Flag goes down. That'll stop the clock with 26 seconds.
Flag and official went down in the area of holding.
Actually, a couple more seconds ticked off down to 24. It is holding against the Bengals. 14-3 Cincinnati.
Let's see, Bengals won the toss at the beginning of the game. I'm sure Cleveland will take the ball in the second half. And down 14-3, they got to commence to throw it.
Tom Dooley now will make it official.
Holding, 58 offense, second down.
Well, Baltimore gained 210 yards on the ground last week in a surprising performance against the Bengals. A performance which almost saw Baltimore take Cincinnati into overtime. A Mike Wood field goal try from 40 was off as time remained, or time ran out, I should say. And so the Browns came in here thinking that perhaps they could mount some kind of running game, but it hasn't worked out that way. Pete Johnson. The Browns have had 30 yards rushing, 3-0 in the first half. Dick Ambrose makes the tackle, and now the Browns stop the clock, giving us an opportunity to check with NFL 82 in New York.
Thank you, Bob. Len Berman, NFL 82. Late first half in Buffalo, the Bills threaten the rout, but Dwayne Woodruff, his second interception near the end zone for Pittsburgh, so the Steelers stay within 10. It could have been a lot worse. Back to you, Bob.
Okay, thanks, Len. Here we have 13 seconds left. The score on the screen is wrong. It's 14-3. Cincinnati 14, Cleveland 3.
Bob, an interesting point here. What Cleveland may be playing for is a punt by the Bengals, and if fair caught, they are then allowed a free kick. And Matt Barr or Cox can come out, and I would think Cox has a little stronger leg, can come out and try for a field goal, get another 3 points at the end of the half. It'll be interesting to see what happens here. McAnally not punting particularly well because of injury, and if the Browns can keep the Bengals from converting this third down, they might have one last desperation try at a field goal. Interesting rule in the NFL.
Of course, the Montana and Fouts statistics include one extra game since they played yesterday, but it's doubtful that anybody's going to catch them.
They played 2 games yesterday.
Seemed that way. Here's Anderson into your basic security crouch.
Okay, Cleveland out of timeouts, cannot stop the clock. Therefore, the free kick at the end of the half will not come about.
Sam Ratigliano again must prepare a halftime talk, which includes a come-from-behind strategy. That has been the Browns' lot in virtually every game, and they face it again against a quality defense in the Cincinnati Bengals. 14-3 at halftime.
Excuse me, Bob, but that is no fun for a coach every week to go in there at halftime and say, well, now we got to do this.
We're coming back to Cincinnati in just a moment. Pick a key play in the first half, Trump, I think you'd have to point to the 3rd and 18 situation which Anderson and the Bengals faced with a 7-0 lead after being pushed back by a penalty. They got it with a 22-yard pass to Collinsworth and then ultimately took it in for the 14-0 lead.
Yeah, the third down conversion rate for each team is rather telling. For the Bengals, they're 6 of 9, and for Cleveland, they're just 2 of 6. And when you can't convert third downs into first downs, you're not going to win a football game. And you're right, that 3rd down and 18, 22-yard pass reception really hurt the Cleveland Browns.
Lead at halftime over the Browns.
First quarter, Pete Johnson over the left side. Reverse handoff, and he breaks the tackle here by Dick Ambrose and manages to get into the end zone. That made it 6-0. Extra point good made it 7-0.
That was early in the second quarter, and then later, Anderson fakes everybody in the house out on the give to Charles Alexander, the fake give, and then goes in untouched around the right side.
And that was after the Bengals had converted a 3rd and 18 that resulted in a touchdown. Cleveland's only scoring play, 29-yard field goal by Matt Barr, with Tom DeLeon the snapper, and it's 14-3.
And we'll be right back after these messages and a word from your local station. Ken Anderson and the Bengals hold a 14-3 lead as Jim Breach kicks off to start the second half. Walker inside the 5 for Cleveland. Busts it up the middle. And out near the 40-yard line. So this is decent field position for the Browns, who tacked 3 on the board at the end of the first half to make it 14-3 and now take over with the second half kickoff.
Look at the time of possession there, Bob. That's the most telling statistic. 18:39 to 11:21 total yards, 170 to 87. And I might also add, of those 8 pass completions by Brian Sipe of the Browns, only to 3 receivers. White, Newsome, and Pruitt. Not a wide receiver has caught a pass yet for the Cleveland Browns.
And as wide as the difference is in the time of possession, it was even wider until the last time Cleveland had the ball on that march, which yielded 3 points. Sipe flips it out to Pruitt. Mike Pruitt with a nice move. He's to the 46-yard line for a gain of 7.
Now, Bob, you see what that good kickoff return does for the Cleveland Browns? Gives them a little incentive. They're only down 14-3. They can get a score here. Sipe, Pruitt, and White still in the backfield. They're back in business. Those are the receivers. The outside receivers have not caught a pass. Deacon in the lineup with that broken hand.
They have the youngster Matt Miller, who someday will take Deacon's place. But with the broken hand, even with it, Deacon has played the last 3 weeks. They didn't want to have Miller break in against either Harvey Martin of Dallas or Big Hands Johnson of San Diego. Here's Pruitt getting them the first down out near midfield. And so Deacon has played despite the broken hand. And today he's matched against Ross Browner with Edwards and Whitley didn't have a very good first half. Harris, LeClaire, Cameron, and Williams are the backers. Reed and Riley in the corners, Hicks and Kemp at the safeties for the Bengals. From just shy of midfield, it's first down for the Browns. Pruitt is the lone setback. That's Fulton in motion. Logan, close to a first down. He was pushed back.
And that is the first reception by an outside receiver of the Cleveland Browns. Injury to Glenn Cameron, linebacker.
As they take a look at Cameron, we'll try and find out the extent of his injury, and we'll take this break with 13:08 to play third quarter. County Skyline will tell you that today's game is brought to you in part by Chevrolet. Chevrolet is USA One, and USA One is taking charge by the U.S. Army. A place to be all you can be. And by Polaroid. The fun starts when you share Polaroid instant picture. Cameron now, as you look at Sipe on the left and Anderson on the right. Cameron walked off under his own power after being down on the artificial surface here at Riverfront Stadium for a while.
It appeared he got his neck stung. What I mean by that is you either take a hit directly on the top of the head without your neck really bulled. You can see him kind of adjusting his neck. Rick Rosano now in as the other linebacker.
They got 9 on the last play, the completion of Logan. It's 2nd and 1, and Sipe wants to go up top for Fulton. Intercepted. Bobby Kemp picks it off.
First interception by Bobby Kemp in the 1982 season. First turnover of the game by either team. That ball was underthrown, Bob. Sipe had plenty of time. I'm not sure that Fulton could have caught it had Sipe thrown it further, but that ball was definitely underthrown.
The 8th time Sipe has been intercepted against 4 touchdown passes. Last year, he threw 25 interceptions against 17 touchdown passes.
He has plenty of time to throw it. He may be trying to cut it too fine here. Kemp with a good job, and now the Bengals first down at 96 on their own 4-yard line. And I'm rather surprised that they didn't It was close to being in the end zone there, but nevertheless at the 4-yard line.
Now, in the playoff season of 1980, Sipe threw 30 touchdown passes, was intercepted only 14 times. He was the NFL MVP. How much of his difficulties can be attributed directly to him, and how much to an overall disintegration of the team?
Answer following this play.
From inside the Cincinnati 5. 12:42 to play third quarter. 14-3 Bengals. Pete Johnson trying to get him a little bit of operating room, maybe 3 yards.
All right, Bob, I go back to the point that I made earlier, that the Browns have historically had a very, very porous defense. Since 1974, they have not had a shutout. And in 1980, I think was the exception rather than the rule for the Cleveland Browns, in that they were able to so many times in winning 11 games to win those games in the final minute or so. And call the cardiac kids. You can't rely on your offense week in and week out to outscore the opponent to win. You've got to shut your opponent down occasionally, and Cleveland has not done that.
Sent back Johnson out across the 10-yard line. It'll be third and short now for Cincinnati.
Now the thing to add to the problems of the Cleveland Browns, when you prepare for an opponent, all you have to do is really look at trying to shut their offense down. If you can shut their offense down, generally you can beat the Cleveland Browns because they can't stop you defensively.
Third down and a short 2. Big play for Cleveland. If they can stop Cincinnati here after the punt, the net effect would be that the interception would be all but meaningless. They'd get the ball back in just about the same place where they had it, if they can stop them.
Blitz.
They come up with a football. Cleveland has the football, and into the end zone with it is Clinton Burrell.
I don't see any official anywhere making any motion of any sort.
Well, that play developed in slow motion, Trump. First it looked like an incompletion.
Oh, wait a minute. Now the official finally says a touchdown. We've got mass confusion here. I didn't see an official make any motion whatsoever when he went into the end zone. But it's going to be ruled a touchdown.
Shaken up in the first half and sidelined for a while. Comes up with a play. Let's see if we can find it, Trump.
Let's watch the officials in this case. Lots of pressure there.
Oh, it's a clean interception, and he simply slipped down, and when no one had touched him, he got up and took it in.
But now watch the officials. Would you not believe that when he crosses, well, we'll try to watch it again in a minute. And they're back in the ball game, 14-10. My point is, it was very late touchdown call. No official did anything.
11:14 to play in the third quarter, and we got a ball game.
We'll watch the interception here from behind the defense. You can see Anderson is really pressured, and it is a clear interception right there. If he didn't drop it on the ground, this touchdown counts. My only question is, why were the officials conspicuous by their absence? They made no sign for a touchdown until a good 10 or 15 seconds after the play occurred.
Mercer lets it go in and out of the end zone for the touchback. Something else what people are asking themselves, although the Bengal answer would be, I'm sure, look how successful our controlled short passing game has been. But that was third and less than 2, and you've got Pete Johnson and you're deep in your own territory, and they put it in the air. Raiders in Kansas City, Denver and the Rams. You'll see one of those two games next as the second half of our NBC doubleheader today. What about that play call,
I think the result of the blitz was the thing that really cost the Bengals the third down conversion there. They've used Pete Johnson so many times on the third down conversion. It's not a bad changeup. Obviously, it didn't work out the way they wanted it to.
A 14-0 lead has been trimmed to 14-10. Johnson on the draw, but only for a couple of yards. This Bengals a little bit restless, and so are the fans at Riverfront now. Looked like it was going to be a breeze for a while for Cincinnati. Alexander and Johnson are Anderson's backs. Curtis and Collinsworth, the wideouts, and Ross, the very underrated tight end. Anthony Munoz was shaken up briefly in the first half, but he is back in there. You saw the rest of their offensive line. 2nd and 8 from the 22. Intercepted? Yes, it is.
There's a flag down, I believe. I think it's going to be interference against Cleveland. Boy, is that going to make some emotions change.
You're right, Trump. An unhappy Judson Flint pleading his case with the officials.
Sure who they would call it on. Clarence Scott, the man on the interception, or Judson Flint, the man on the coverage. Let's watch once again. It's Judson Flint man coverage against Dan Ross. Anderson with time.
Pass interference, defense, touchdown.
Clarence Scott, number 22, they're saying he made contact, although Cleveland would protest and say they both have the same right to the football, and I don't blame them for complaining. That is a very, very close call. That is an extremely close call.
Up over the back of Ross, in the official's opinion, just an instant before the ball arrived.
That guy's got good eyes, whoever saw that.
So it gives the Bengals a first down at their 30. Instead of Cleveland ball deep in Cincinnati territory. Pete Johnson's been bottled up pretty well on his last several carries. Only 2 on that one.
And it does appear that the Cleveland defense is playing with a little more intensity presently. That turnover, touchdown, back in the ball game 14-10. Added to the emotion for the Cleveland Browns.
The Browns have to play Pittsburgh 2 of the next 3 weeks. They lost the last couple of weeks to Dallas and San Diego, and when somebody tried to console Sam Ratigliano by saying, well, those are good teams, he said, if we can't beat those teams, we're not going anywhere anyway. And we've got Cincinnati coming up and then Pittsburgh twice, so they've got to play at this level. Here's Anderson sliding down and coming up short of the first.
I'm going to tell you what, Cleveland, for most of the day, has done an excellent job in dropping their linebackers right to the point of the breaks by the Bengal receivers. Let's watch Anthony Munoz, offensive left tackle of the Cincinnati Bengals. He's got Mike Robinson. Does a good job of keeping him out. Anderson running upfield, and they got to do something to get those linebackers off the receivers at the point where the receivers generally break their routes off.
3rd and 3 at the 37. Off Collinsworth's hands and nearly intercepted.
And for Dixon on the coverage. Cleveland's done an excellent job. They've come out this second half and played with good intensity. Whatever Sam told them at halftime, it has worked.
McAnally to punt. Dwight Walker will wait deep. There's Walker, the rookie out of Nichols State. .8:54 to play, 3rd quarter. Bit of room, but can't find the handle, and has to fall on it at about the 30.
Did the smart thing, though. Just simply fell on the football to maintain possession. Didn't try to run on it.
McAnally's distance, again limited by that sore knee. Just 33 yards on the kick. No return. 1st and 10 Cleveland at their 30-yard line. Well, the Browns have a little bit of that overworked word momentum going for them. It'll be their ball when we come back. Bengals are well fortified against the crisp temperatures.
Bob, I'll make a comment here. Now I think the Browns ought to go back to Mike Pruitt, see if they can get him on track. Little ball possession right here with 8:44 to go in the 3rd quarter would really help the Browns.
Pruitt, the lone setback. 3 wide receivers for Sipe and the Browns. Deep drop by Bryant. Stepping up into the pocket with some room, but with no receivers, and he has to go out of bounds after a gain of 2. Bo Harris was chasing him, number 53.
We still have just 1 wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns with a reception. Here's Browner, 79 on Deacon. 73, Browner with the inside rush. And, of course, out of his passing lane, that gives Brian Sipe a chance to run the ball up the field. Good for only about 1.5 yards. It'll be 2nd down and 8.5.
Not surprising that Browner would take the inside route, because then he's coming at the broken right hand of Deacon. And also you'd expect Wilson Whitley, the nose man, to loop around that side on occasion to try and take advantage of that weakness.
You're doing the defensive lineman no favor, or or the offensive lineman a favor because he can push you on the inside.
2nd and 8 from the 32. They got him. Breeden on the blitz. Louis Breeden.
That's one of the tough things about playing that offense where you have 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers, and 1 running back. You can see Pruitt step up, but he's got to pick one side or the other, and Louis Breeden comes basically untouched. The Bengals defense taking a heck of a chance in blitzing a cornerback, but it worked. They just couldn't account for it. Louis Breeden, there weren't enough men to block the defensive guys blitzing.
Now 3rd down and 21. Dino Hall is in, and the last 2 times they faced 3rd and long, they went with an inside handoff to Dino Hall. Not this time. Logan, he's got it, and he's got a 1st down. Dave Logan is into Cincinnati territory. Now Ray Griffin came out of there with the ball, but that won't count.
33 yards on the catch, and as was the case in the first half, the Bengals able to convert a 3rd down and 18 situation. The Browns converting that long yardage situation on 3rd down. You'll see the ball coming right at you. Logan seems to be hurt. Doesn't seem to be running with the verve he did last year. Louis Breeden on the tackle. Big 1st down by the Cleveland Browns. Gets him out of a hole.
The Cincinnati 49 with 7:18 to play 3rd quarter. White and Pruitt to the backs. Audible to the right and Logan to the left.
Audible expecting the blitz. Hot receiver somewhere. He's got it.
Ozzie Newsome cut down. Good tackle by Brian Hicks in the open field.
When a quarterback has the ability to notice a blitz like that, an all-out blitz like that, and can call it audible at the line, generally what he's doing is naming a receiver by number as the hot receiver. That is, here comes the blitz, look quick. In this case, it was Ozzie Newsome just out in the flat, and all Brian Sipe was trying to do was make a completion. What that does is take that defense out of that form of blitz. Each time you beat that defense, you'll be less apt to go to it the next time.
They beat it 5 on that play to the 44. 2nd and 5 upcoming. The 1st down and then some. He's inside the 35 of Cincinnati, and this looks like an entirely different Cleveland team than the one we saw for the first 28 minutes of the ballgame.
10 yards on the carry by Mike Pruitt, and now he is back in the ballgame. They're only down by 4 points and moving the ball. Now they can go to the ball possession. And a repeat last week. The Baltimore Colts gained 210 yards rushing against the Bengals. I think the Browns had just 35 yards rushing in the first half.
And yet in the 2 weeks preceding, the Bengals had bottled up a pair of excellent runners, Wilbert Montgomery of Philadelphia and Marcus Allen of the LA Raiders. To the sideline for Newsome. A short gain to about the 29 as we pause briefly for station identification on the NBC television network.
Your sports station in Cincinnati, WLWT TV5.
Bob, I noticed that Ken Riley is out of the lineup. No, he's in there. There were 5 defensive backs. I apologize. Now, Cleveland has everything going their way. The Bengal defense is sitting there wondering what they're going to do next. With good 1st down pickup, almost 5 yards. That is an offensive coach and quarterback's dream.
And maybe a loss. Wilson Whitley and Glenn Cameron in on the stop. Cameron back in after having his neck jammed earlier.
And so is LeClaire. Interesting defense there. With the motion by the Cleveland Browns, Brian Hicks, the weak safety of the Cincinnati Bengals, was on an all-out blitz. Consumed one of the offensive linemen. Someone was there by himself to make the tackle. Big 3rd down conversion here for the Browns.
They need 5 yards. Sipe is sacked. It looked like the #1 one draft choice out of Mississippi State, Glenn Collins, number 76, with the pressure there, Trump.
But the initial pressure was by Eddie Edwards, who has Cody Rice and by himself today. Edwards was able to make sight move ever so slightly, destroy the pattern. He's not looking downfield. And then Collins on the blitz. Collins on the sack.
They're doubling a lot on Browner to try and help Deacon out on the other side, so that means Rison is left with Edwards alone if he can handle him, and he hasn't always been able to. Cox now will aim for the corner. A bit too much foot in it. The touchback. He'll get credit for 36 yards on the punt. This particular Browns threat is thwarted. 14-10 Cincinnati, 3:28 to play, third quarter. And the Colts, who look absolutely pathetic, there's no other way to put it. The last few times we saw them, a good effort last week, came up just short against the Bengals, and now in the lead today. Alexander. Looks like he has first down yardage.
If not, very close. Interesting. I believe that's his first carry of the ball game. No, it's his second carry of the ball game. Look at that score, Bob. 30-0 Detroit over Green Bay. What has happened?
Now, how do you figure that? Monty Clark, an absolute picture of dejection at the end of the Monday night game with the Jets. His team looked absolutely defeated. Miami and New England, is that right? In the fourth quarter, no score? Incomplete, intended for Collinsworth, and for Dixon broke it up.
Oh, late flag.
Was it ever late? Collinsworth was already about 3 sentences into his speech pleading for the flag when suddenly it flew by.
I disagree. I think Chris Collinsworth in this case made a mistake. One of the first things that each receiver must realize is when that ball is thrown, come back for the football. Now, he gets his feet tied up just a little bit here, but look, he hesitates right there. No. Come back for that football. Oh, that's questionable. That's a couple of close calls, but
49, first down.
Gives the Bengals a first down at the 41. I still can't get over some of the scores we're seeing today, though. Here's the Packers, a team that was rolling and playing at home. They're 4-1. Detroit 2-3. 30-0 early in the third quarter. The Lions over the Packers. Are these wild fluctuations, do you think, Trump, a byproduct of the strike situation?
gee, if it is, I can't explain how. For the life of me, I don't understand a score like that. I understand that Buffalo held Pittsburgh to just 18 yards total offense in the first half, too.
Alexander. Second effort, but it still doesn't net him much.
Let me make a comment. I believe one of the things that may have something to do with the lopsided scores is the weather. They're playing outside in Green Bay. Detroit used to playing inside in the Dome. And up in Buffalo, it's always bad weather. Let's watch Mr. Cousineau. Tom Cousineau. Oh, take that guard on tougher. But he does slip the block. There to make the tackle. Ambrose and Cousineau on Charles Alexander for very little gain. Second down and 9.
On the other hand, if Detroit is used to playing inside, why would they respond better outside at Green Bay?
I don't know.
Weird. Second and 8. He wants it all. The coverage appears to be there, though. Incomplete.
Even if he'd caught it, it wouldn't have counted. He went out of the bounds. He went out of bounds, and you cannot come back inbounds and make a reception.
This telecast is presented by authority of the NFL. It's intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Bengals and the NFL is prohibited.
Couldn't you just say you can't show this again without asking and let it go at that?
That's pretty much the net of it.
Net is the most important nowadays. Net punting, net passing.
Need to net 8 on this play. They want to keep the ball with 1:51 to play in the third quarter. Here's the lob to the right side for Kreider, incomplete, but
That's a good ball. He knows it.
he had man-on-man coverage, Lawrence Johnson did against Kreider. That's the second time they've gone to that pattern, and the second time Kreider has been interfered with.
I tell you what, the penalty on third downs has been the biggest play the Bengals have had all day. This is a rainbow. Let's see if we can watch. You'll see the hands up in front of the receiver. The cornerback will read his eyes. Well, if there's not contact there, the guy's invisible. And I believe he knows it. I don't think Kreider's caught a pass, and yet he's accounted for 2 great big plays. Pass interference down here in the right end zone, and now here to convert a third down to a first.
For the amount of plays that he's in a game, it's amazing how much impact he has, not just today, but seemingly every week for Cincinnati. Hello. Boy, did they ever meet Pete Johnson. Bob Golick led the reception committee. Cousineau came in, and
Marshall Harris right there, too. That didn't fool anybody. Lost yardage. 2 tight ends now. M.L. Harris in the ball game with Dan Ross. And generally, when this happens, they go with a little half roll. And Anderson will look for one of the tight ends coming open.
Harris had a couple of touchdown catches in the second half last week. The comeback win over Baltimore. Little pop over the middle. There's Dan Ross. Ross lunges to the 26-yard line. This will leave him with third down and 3.
One of the tight ends on a little crossing pattern just underneath, trying to throw the ball 3 yards, have the receiver run for 10 yards. Good protection. Blitz on the outside by Weathers and Ambrose. Ross able to make the reception, and you see the distance between Clarence Scott and Dan Ross. Hard to cover a guy with that much distance between you.
We're in the last half minute of the third quarter. 3rd and 3 from the Cleveland 26. Intended for Collinsworth and broken up. Hanford-Dixon knocked it down.
Cleveland has done a great job all day long of taking that pass away. They had Clarence Scott in zone coverage on top, Hanford-Dixon in man-to-man coverage underneath, and Dixon was able to stay with Collinsworth and breach on the field to try a field goal of what, 49 yards? 44 yards.
He's 8 for 11 on the year, and from beyond 40 yards, he's kicked 2 out of 4. Fuller will hold. Blair Bush will snap, and he's had some trouble with high snaps this year. It's on the way. It's good. Six seconds remaining in the third quarter. The Bengals up their edge to 17-10. Looks like Scott Nicholas, number 58. And across the 30-yard line as the gun sounds to end the third quarter.
The field goal ever so close, but good.
And we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Quarter, and although the Browns have moved the ball better late in the second period and throughout the third, their offense has not produced a touchdown yet. Their TD came on an interception and return into the end zone by Clinton Burrell. Here's Paul McDonald at quarterback. And his first pass is tremendously successful. Ozzie Newsome makes the catch at midfield. Brian Sipe replaced by Paul McDonald, and I don't think it's because of an injury, unless the shot he took earlier in the area of the hip has come back and is now bothering him. But immediately preceding McDonald's entrance, there was nothing apparently wrong with Sipe. Well, this is what some Cleveland fans have been calling for. McDonald was somewhat impressive late in the game on Thanksgiving Day in a mop-up role against Dallas. These circumstances are different. They're very much in the ballgame, and it's incomplete to Ozzie Newsome.
Let's put it this way. Cleveland quarterbacks have 14 completions, 1 to an outside receiver. The vast majority, or the rest, to running backs and tight ends. You'll see him set up here. He can throw the ball on a line. He's bothered a little bit by Eddie Edwards. Ball thrown slightly behind Ozzie Newsome, 2nd and 10. And we'll try to find out if there is, in fact, something wrong with Brian Sipe.
Pruitt carries, and he's run out of bounds at about the 48-yard line. This is going to leave them with 3rd down and 8. McDonald, coming into today's game, had thrown just 15 passes, completing 9 of them, 1 for a touchdown, and he had 1 picked off.
Here comes Dino Hall into the ball game, and you would generally think that now the defense would try to put an awful lot of pressure on Paul McDonald, maybe through a blitz, and I don't see Brian Sipe on the sideline. Obviously, most of them are wearing their jackets, but we'll try to catch sight of him, see if he's hurting somewhere for some reason. Let's see if the Bengals come with a blitz here.
McDonald out of the shotgun. He needs 8. Newsome, incomplete. Ray Griffin on the coverage.
Boy, that was close interference, too. Very close. There have been some very, very close calls here when it comes to incidental contact between receiver and defensive back. That was a close one. But nevertheless, 4th and 9. Cleveland to punt.
Has come close a few times, but he's never quite been able to pin the Bengals back in their own territory. Fuller gets it out across the 15, which is better than the Bengals might have expected to do. 13 minutes and 57 seconds remaining. It's a 37-yard kick by Cox, a 6-yard return by Fuller. We'll be right back.
The offensive coaches of the Cleveland Browns, Sam Rutigliano, we haven't caught sight of Brian Sipe yet, nor do we know why he is not in the ballgame.
From the Cincinnati 17, Anderson hands to Alexander, and the Cleveland defense is all over him. Today's game is brought to you by Lincoln Mercury, offering a complete range of contemporary automobiles for 1983 from Lynx to Lincoln. By Atari, the leader in home video games for fun your whole family can share. And by Canon, so advanced, Canon is the world's leader in 35mm photography. Off the play fake, Anderson wants to go deep, but instead he's going down. Marshall Harris, number 90, and then Golick came along to help him, but Harris was the guy principally responsible.
Unbelievable. Buffalo 13-0 over Pittsburgh. How is that possible? Bad weather apparently in Buffalo, but that's no excuse. Washington over St. Louis, 9-0. I believe that's 3 field goals by Mark Mosley.
It is.
Jets on top of Tampa Bay, 23-10 in the 3rd quarter.
The Jets and Cincinnati appear to be 2 teams that were able to carry over what they had going last year into this season. Well, that time, a rare misfire by Anderson as Ross was pretty well open on the play.
Cleveland has covered the receivers generally very well throughout this day.
Baltimore, Minnesota now tied at 10 in the 3rd. That's at Minnesota. And Detroit continues to lead at Green Bay 30-0 over the Packers. That's in the 4th quarter. That's no misprint. In the 4th quarter, 3-0. New England over Miami.
And apparently they're using sled dogs up there for offense. Cleveland is going to get the ball in good field position here, Bob.
McAnally. Returnable kick. Dwight Walker. Good coverage by the Bengals. But the Browns still enjoy excellent field position just outside the Cincinnati 40. And now McAnally's limping a bit, Trump.
After the punt, he really feels it.
And it's just a 30-yard kick by McAnally, who, when healthy, usually booms them.
Seiko Lasau, marvels of thinness, so perfected, so refined, they reach the realm of art. Seiko Lasau, thin, rich, beautiful, Only the highest quartz technology could achieve such flawless design and performance. Seiko LaSalle. Other Seiko LaSalle models in 14 and 18 karat gold are also available only at your Seiko authorized dealer.
Create a car to conquer the wind. A car that lets you slip off the commonplace and experience driving excitement as never before. The Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. Sit here and learn firsthand how Firebird conquers the wind and the world. Pontiac, we build excitement.
We have a report now from the sideline on Brian Sipe, and the word is that he was dazed a couple of series ago, and apparently when he feels that he's ready, he can come back into the ball game unless Paul McDonald gets a hot hand, in which case Sam Rutigliano might stick with him.
Yeah, maybe when he got sacked that one time, got hit in the chest or hit right in the belt. It might have knocked the wind out of him a little bit, but I'll tell you what, I think Cleveland's better off with an injured Brian Sipe than they are with a healthy Paul McDonald just because of a confidence factor. Comes a blitz.
It's McDonald at the helm. He's firing for Logan. It's broken up. They had two defenders there, one of whom was Ken Riley, who has not been picked on often today, and the other was Oliver Davis, the former Brown.
I'll tell you what, Dave Logan appeared to run very, very stiff-legged there. Just tipped away by Ken Riley.
Make a correction. That was Brian Hicks, number 27, the free safety who came over.
Free safety. It just doesn't look like Dave Logan is running the way he has in past years. Last year he was severely injured. He seems to be very, very tight in the legs today.
McDonald completed the first pass he threw after relieving Sipe to Newsom. Now here's Pruitt on the draw play, and Pruitt rumbles to the 30-yard line of Cincinnati.
That's one of the chances you take when you run a blitz like that. If you can control one man, watch. You see DeLeon does a good job on Bo Harris up through the middle. There's no one there. Hicks falls, and luckily Ross Browner comes back to help out on the tackle, or he's going for a touchdown.
13 yards on the carry for Pruitt. They spot it smack at the 30-yard line. Starter to say that after that initial completion by McDonald, he has had no success on his subsequent throws. He'll go to the air off the short drop. Juggled by Logan and dropped.
This is the first time I've seen Dave Logan in 1982, and he appears to be very, very tight, very stiff in the way in which he runs. Generally, in past years, even though that ball is slightly overthrown, he takes his eye off of it. He did the tough part and then forgot the easy part. And that is looking the ball in. Second down and 10. Past years, he'd make that catch.
11:42 remaining in the game. Cincinnati by a touchdown. McDonald right on target to Ozzie Newsome. It's a first down inside the 15.
No flags. It'll count.
Now, again, the Cleveland offense has not generated a touchdown today. This could be the first.
We keep speaking of Dave Logan. I understand that last week he was playing with a bad shoulder, but I'm not sure that has any effect on his legs, and he just doesn't seem to be running right today. I can't tell you why. He's gotten very little action today. Now's a good time to look at Dave Logan.
Pruitt bobbles the pitch. Who's got the ball? Cleveland thinks they've regained it. And apparently they have, but it's cost them 4 yards and left them with 2nd and 14.
They certainly didn't need that.
Earlier on the play where Pruitt gained 13 yards, it looked like there was a little bit of trouble on the connection, but it looks like that pitch is clean and Pruitt just can't handle it.
Pruitt looked away to try to get his eye on the corner to see exactly where the ball is, where he's going to run the ball. We'll blame that one on Mike Pruitt.
Very often when a new quarterback comes in and there is a fumble, you say that's what it had to do with, but not in this case.
Not the case.
Here's Pruitt. Nice change of direction.
Fumble.
Loose football. Looks like the Bengals have it. They do. It might have been Reggie Williams. And it is.
captured the corner. Bryson had a great block. Everything was perfect. You'll see Joe D pull along with Jackson. Look at it. They got the corner. Everything is perfect. It's exactly what they want. And then it appears that right there, the ball is stripped away by Ross Browner. Williams on the recovery. When you're 2 and 3, that's the way things happen. They had the right play called against the right defense, exactly what they wanted, and they ended up losing the ball. Frustration on the part of Sam Rigigliano.
They asked Pete Johnson to get them some room, and he does, out across the 10-yard line. Gain of 5 on first down.
Well, that's the way it goes sometimes in the NFL. Pruitt, normally a very, very sure-handed ball carrier. Ross Browner just stripped him of the ball, and man, that's a killer. Just takes the wind right out of you. Emotionally, you think, what else can we do to lose a football game? Just as they have the last couple of weeks against Dallas and San Diego. And coaches can't account for that. Things like that happen in football.
Just as most of the first half was played in Cleveland territory, most of the second half has been played in the Bengals end of the field. Here's Pete Johnson cut down after maybe a gain of a yard. But despite the fact that they've been continually knocking on the door and applying the pressure, Cleveland really hasn't been able to cash in.
Here comes the receiving corps now. Kreider into the ball game. Archie Griffin into the ball game. Cleveland responds with their one linebacker, number 51, Eddie Johnson, and what appears to be 6 defensive backs. And so far today, Cleveland has generally done a good job against the Bengals in this set.
Elvis Franks and Keith Baldwin, 94 and 99 respectively, are also in for pass rushing strength. Griffin, no first down. Archie fought for it but didn't get it, and McAnally again will have to punt from very deep in his own territory. 8:40 to play in the game.
And Cleveland will, without some accident happening, some turnover happening, once again have great field position. I got to tell you, McAnally was the leading punter in the league last year, but with his injury, I think the Bengals have to seriously consider trying to find another punter for the remainder of the year. They can't go with that kind of an average. It gives your opponent too good a field position.
Relatively short, wobbly kick. Here's Walker. Comes back the other way and is drilled. Robert Jackson, number 37, got down there and delivered quite a hit. 8:01 to play in the ballgame. Turned by Walker. It's 1st and 10 Cleveland at the Cincinnati 48. McDonald escaping trouble. And the ball is right in the hands of Browner. Ross Browner. Charles White spins him out of bounds.
McDonald appears to be on the ground and hurt.
Was recovered by Williams. Now watch this play.
He does a great job of avoiding the rush. Then he gets hit from the blind side. Does not even notice what's happening. Leclerc from behind. You see him hit his arm. Browner, right place, right time. And he begins to lumber down the field. And McDonald is still on the ground at the 50-yard line.
And Charles White, who took Browner out of bounds, was the only Brown between Browner and the end zone.
Once again, we'll watch it. McDonald, a very, very shifty quarterback, but you can see Leclerc behind him. He's the one that starts the problem. Right there. He barely gets the ball off. Browner in the right spot at the right time. McDonald is up and going to the sideline under his own power, but another big turnover by the Bengal defense.
Well, with Seif and McDonald both taking their lumps, if neither is able to go, and it looks now as if McDonald would be able to, then Rick Trocano, second-year man out of Pittsburgh, would be the choice.
He seems to be all right. He just got sandwiched.
Now from the Browns 25, with the Bengals leading 17-10 and 7:45 left, Alexander pushes people back and gets 5 on first down. Marshall Harris is at the bottom of the pile, number 90.
In case it sounds like they're booing when Pete and Charles Alexander run the ball. When Pete carries it, they're yelling Pete, Pete, Pete. And when Charles Alexander carries it, they're so surprised it's oh, oh, oh.
Archie Griffin is in now, along with Pete Johnson. Griffin's in that wing position. And Cincinnati wants a timeout, which is the first that they've used in the second half. And the Browns have all 3 of theirs remaining.
Bob, so far, the Bengals defense have certainly atoned for themselves. There's Brian Sipe. He appears to have that right arm underneath that cape and protecting it somehow.
7 minutes and 3 seconds left. Bengals with the 7-point lead and the ball at the Browns 20. Sellout crowd here at Riverfront Stadium. They are being led in cheers by some bizarre characters.
Bob, the point I was going to make before the timeout, I think the Bengals defense to this point in the game have atoned themselves for the performance they put on last week against Baltimore.
Griffin in motion. Archie with the catch, and a nice one it was. He shoved out near the 10. Apparently they'll mark it inside the 10, where it will be first and goal, Cincinnati.
Archie Griffin's about 5'8½", and he stretched to about 6'2" to make the reception there. And the crucial one it was. You see Griffin in motion. There's nobody out there. Everyone goes left. Anderson by himself to the right. That's fine catch. Collinsworth, the decoy there, drawing the cornerback with him. First down and 8 for a touchdown.
.6:57 on the clock. Bengals by 7 and driving for more. Alexander breaks a tackle, gets a gain of 2. The turnover situation, the Browns have been guilty of 3. One of them occurred deep in Bengal territory when Pruitt fumbled. The other 2 occurred with the Browns in possession around midfield, so all 3 hurt them. The Bengals have been guilty of just 1 turnover, but that led directly to a Cleveland touchdown, the Clinton Burrell interception and return for the TD.
The Cleveland Browns have basically stopped themselves today with interference penalties and those 3 turnovers.
Second and goal from just outside the 5. Pete Johnson. A flag goes down, but Johnson won't. He's in the end zone.
That's going to be holding, I have a feeling.
It'll probably erase Johnson's second touchdown of the day. You're right, Trump. The fact that the play was negated shouldn't lessen our amazement over what Johnson did. He just shrugged off 5 or 6 potential tacklers.
Ryan Sipe apparently going to come back in the ball game. Let's see who the penalty of holding was on.
Holding, 58 offense, second down.
Second holding call on Blair Bush. He's on Golick up in front there. Let's see if we can pick it up. A lot of times it's more the position of the arms than grabbing anything, and it does appear that Bush's left arm is underneath Golick's right arm, and therefore the call of holding. Now the situation here is to try to get half of it back. You don't try to get the touchdown.
Draw play to Alexander. They get considerably less than half of it back.
Wonder about that. Sipe warming up. He appears to be over the cobwebs.
Even a field goal here would leave Cincinnati feeling pretty good.
5:50 left in the ball game. Kreider checks in. Alexander out.
Breach gets ready. Breach hit earlier from 44.
And the situation substitution in the NFL is now called. Bengals 5 of 13 in third down conversions.
This is third and goal from the 13. Anderson escapes and might take it in. No, they stop him inside the 5. I'll tell you one thing, Trump. If they had gotten him on the sack, it would not have been an easy field goal for Breach. Within his range, but a questionable attempt. Now it's a chip shot.
And for Dixon on the blitz, Anderson sees him immediately. You'll see this. He sees him coming. Ducks completely underneath and around. Clarence Scott on the tackle. 4th down. Breach in for a field goal.
Clinton Burrell almost got a clean shot at Anderson, and now it's Breach from just outside the 10. 9 of 12 for the year, 1 for 1 today. Breach makes it 20-10 in favor of Cincinnati with 4 minutes and 27 seconds to play in the ball game. Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. Bob Costas along with Bob Trumpy. On that last carry, Anderson had to be thinking about a couple of things. One was self-preservation, but the other was the end zone. He thought for a while that he had a crack at the touchdown, and he almost took a wicked hit from Clinton Burrell for his trouble, but he managed to avoid that barely.
Anderson, too, in his career, has never shown any reluctance whatsoever to run the ball. Last year, the NFL's leading rusher as a quarterback. And Bob, this has been a football game of turnovers and penalties against the Cleveland Browns that have resulted in the 20-10 score, Cincinnati over Cleveland. From behind the defense, once again the blitz from the outside, you'll just catch sight of him. Somehow, Anderson is able to get away from Hanford Dixon. Clarence Scott, Clinton Burrell, as you said, with hit, field goal was good.
Cleveland threatened several times for what could have been the tying touchdown. Now they find themselves down by 10 with just 4:27 to work with. They have all 3 of their timeouts left.
And we'll see if Brian Sipe comes back in the ballgame. He missed a big portion of the 4th quarter. In fact, I don't believe he's played in the 4th quarter. Went out on the last play of the 3rd quarter. Paul McDonald has taken over. There's Brian Sipe. The report on him was he was dazed in the last series in the 3rd quarter.
Dino Hall juggles, recovers, and gets across the 20.
It appears that McDonald will come in at quarterback instead of Sipe. Obviously, Sipe still feeling the effects of a hit he took in the stomach earlier in the ballgame.
For those of you who are just joining us, the first half was pretty well dominated by Cincinnati. They scored on short runs, 3 yards by Pete Johnson, and 1 yard around the right side by quarterback Ken Anderson. Matt Barr kicked a field goal of 29 yards in the last minute of the first half to make it 14-3 at halftime. Then a Clinton Burrell interception return for a touchdown made it 14-10. Breach hit from 44 to make it 17-10, and a moment ago Breach from 21 to make it 20-10 Cincinnati as we move down toward 4 minutes to play in the ball game. McDonald to the air again. Ozzie Newsome makes the catch. Newsome has a first down.
Boy, the Cleveland Browns' inability to get to one of their wide receivers today just puzzles me to no end. It really does.
First and 10 from the 36. Donald firing long for Newsome. Incomplete. Bobby Kemp had the coverage.
It is extremely difficult to play offense in the NFL for an entire football game without your wide receivers.
Buffalo continues to lead Pittsburgh 13-zip. 4 field goals by Mosley. Now the Cardinals have scored a touchdown. Very much a ball game at Busch Stadium, 12-7. The Jets widen the gap against Tampa Bay to 32-10. Mosley, I understand, was in danger of losing his job earlier in the year. Now he's come back with a vengeance. 4 field goals today for the Redskins. McDonald brought down. It'll be 3rd and long. Bo Harris gets the sack, number 53. Minnesota, Baltimore, and the Colts give the Vikings a tussle, just as they did against the Bengals a week ago. 13-10 Vikes in the 4th. Oh, Green Bay got a field goal, 30-3.
I still do not believe that score.
A final 3-0 New England over Miami. Must have been a John Smith field goal. Wasn't he reactivated this week?
I believe he was. You're right.
3rd and 15. Newsom, the target, overthrown.
I'll tell you what, I don't believe that the Browns quarterbacks more than 5 times this entire day have even looked to wide receivers. All they've looked for is Ozzie Newsom, and he has 9 catches on the day, and he's certainly a terrific receiver, but man, you got to spread it around somewhere. They have 2 receptions by wide receivers, the rest by running backs and Newsom.
You've been calling for a fake by Cox all day. Now, they're deep in their own territory, but is now the time?
No.
Then it'll never happen.
You're right.
Low snap. Well, this wasn't by design, but he didn't punt the ball. Bengals have it at the 15. M.L. Harris blew in there after the low snap.
When it rains, it pours. Scott Nicholas is the snapper. Ball bounces back there. And when you're 2-3, and in the last 2 weeks been accused of playing lackluster football, why does that always seem to happen to your team and never to the other guys? Well, you go over on the sideline. Sam Rutigliano hangs his head and says, we can't account for that.
2:41, 20-10. Pete Johnson brought down for a loss of 3. Chip Banks, number 56, made the tackle.
And to give the Cleveland Browns fans a little more bad news, and I'm sure they're already aware of, in the next 3 weeks they play Pittsburgh twice. Cincinnati will go to San Diego and play the Chargers. And it may be a game that very similar in nature to yesterday's game between Frisco and San Diego. 96 passes thrown, and I don't believe that there was a sack in the game. 100 yards rushing and 1,000 yards offense by the 2 teams.
The Bengals will take with them a record of 5-1, with a playoff spot virtually assured. The Browns will have to win all 3 of their remaining games to even have a prayer to get to the playoffs. 2-minute warning, another fantastic finish.
I like that Raiders-Kansas City game. I'm anxious to see Marcus Allen against that vaunted Kansas City defense at 34 with Still and Spaney and those people up front.
2 weeks ago, we saw him held to 0 net yards rushing and 8 carries against the Bengals. He came back the very next week and went over 150. Anderson brought down. One might wonder whether that amount of punishment is necessary under these circumstances for Anderson. What I meant to say was not that the tackle was excessive, but whether or not Cincinnati wants Anderson carrying the ball in this situation. New Year's Day, 3 bowl games on NBC. It starts with the Fiesta, Oklahoma against Arizona State at 1:30 Eastern Time. It's followed by the Rose Bowl, Michigan against UCLA. The UClans ranked number 5 at about 4:30 Eastern Time. And then on to Miami for the Orange Bowl. Nebraska against LSU. That's at 8 Eastern Time. A triple header, New Year's Day and night on NBC.
For the game today, here are the possessions by the Cleveland Browns offense. Punt, 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 field goal, interception, punt, punt, fumble, interception. Cox tackled on a punt attempt. 7 points scored by the defense. 3 points by the offense.
The Browns have 1 timeout left. The clock shows 1:52. It's 3rd down, and let's call it 14 to go for the Bengals. Our spotters today, Bill Schwarberg and Mike Leonard, and our statistician, John Murdoch.
Junior.
All right. Sam Ratigliano said before the game that the Browns are by no means out of the playoff picture, and mathematically they are still not out. But at 2-4, they'll have to win all 3 of their remaining games to even have a prayer.
And play a lot better.
Flags all over the place.
I believe that will be on the offense. Ball start Cincinnati.
Tampa Bay has added a touchdown, but they still trail by 15 at 32-17 in the 4th quarter at Shea Stadium. And the Jets apparently on their way to a record of 5-1.
And to add to that, 1977 was fired. Dick Modzelewski, the Bengals defensive line coach, took over for 1 game. Forrest Gregg went to Canada, came back to the NFL as the head coach of the Bengals, led them to the Super Bowl last year.
On 3rd and long, the completion to Collinsworth, but it's shy of what they need for the first down.
Tell you what, if nothing else, my impression of Chip Banks is certainly a positive impression. He is an excellent open field tackler and a good stinger with his shoulder pads when he does make the tackle.
The Browns use another timeout, which is their last. 1:41 remaining. Breach is apparently going to come in and try to make it 23-10.
If the Browns could somehow split that kid in half, have to play on both sides, they have the makings of an excellent defense.
Well, of course, they'll have Clay Matthews back to play the other side when he returns from his injury.
Hopefully. He's had an awful lot of knee problems, and I believe that he had in his rookie season a real ankle problem or a leg problem that kept him out almost the entire year. He just wasn't able to stay healthy, or is not able to stay healthy. And Banks is a player, excellent player. He's had more of an effect today than Tom Cousineau has on the offense of the Cincinnati Bengals.
With getting back into this ball game, appeared to be on the verge of tying it a couple of times, but each time they were stymied. Turnovers did them in. This is what's left. Pittsburgh, Houston, Pittsburgh for the Browns. San Diego on a Monday night, then Seattle at home, and then at Houston for the Bengals. Fuller holds at the 25, a 35-yard attempt by Breach, who's 2 for 2 today. He's hit from 44 and 21. That groin injury has bothered him. He has not shown it.
Now Forrest Gregg can breathe a little easier now. If the Browns come back and win this, it will be one of our fantastic finishes that we have on each broadcast.
Bengals have not scored a touchdown in the second half. Their second half offense consisting of the 3 field goals by Breach.
44, 21, and 35 yards by Jim Breach, obviously recovered from that groin pull. The Bengals still have a problem in that Pat McAnally, their punter, the league's leader last year, really suffering from that knee injury. His average today hovering around 35 yards, I say, no better than that.
The scoreboard, Trump, still indicates that the Browns have 1 timeout left, but it said the same thing before they called a timeout a moment ago, so I'm guessing they have none. 1:36 remaining in the game. Dino Hall again has trouble coming up with it. The 12-yard line he goes down in the grasp of Guy Frazier, number 49.
And a flag was thrown.
Assuming a Cincinnati victory, this is what the standings look like in the AFC temporarily. Raiders, of course, play later today at Kansas City. The Jets are apparently on their way to a win. They'll be 5-1. Pittsburgh is losing. Miami has lost.
By a 3-0 score to New England, which is astounding.
Illegal use of hands. 23 on the receiving
heartache for Sam Ratigliano. They're 95 yards from the goal line. Chris Collinsworth, he and Isaac Curtis still looking for a touchdown this year. No Bengal wide receiver has caught a touchdown pass except for Steve Kreider, who has one.
He's getting an awful lot of attention this year as opposed to last year.
It's McDonald at quarterback, and from his own end zone, he completes it to Newsom, who laterals it back to Dino Hall, I believe. And if the Bengals were fooled, it wasn't for long.
It appears to me they're going to gain a grand total of 3 yards on what is called a hook and lateral. This is design. Newsom on the catch, and you'll see Dino Hall come into your picture. Nice idea. Remember when we saw that last? Miami versus San Diego last year in the Orange Bowl. Fantastic play. Tony Nathan scored.
Intercepted. Reggie Williams, who had a fumble recovery earlier, now has the interception. Down inside the 10.
Last week, the Bengal defense embarrassed themselves with 4 turnovers today. They have certainly changed the minds of their coaches and their fans. Williams was wide open, I'll grant you that. The Cleveland receiver was not.
From just outside the 6-yard line, it's 1st and goal. 36 seconds remain. Coordinating producer of football on NBC is Ted Nathanson. The telecast of today's game in Cincinnati produced by Terry Ewert, directed by John Gonzalez, who did double duty this weekend. He worked the basketball game at Kentucky yesterday. And our associate director, Steve Rosen.
That's it. I think they're going to let Cleveland off the hook and not rub it in. They do not have to run another play. Final score will be 23-10. Bengals 5-1. Browns 2-4.
After some anxious moments in the second half, the Bengals, largely thanks to their defense's ability to force turnovers, come out on top 23-10. Forrest Gregg congratulated by some of the Browns players. Once again, the final score 23-10, and we'll go to NFL.